Invocation to the Lord. Dear Lord, allow my spirit to rise to your heights, to drink from the true fountains of wisdom, and absorb your powerful vibrations of love and faith, of purification and spiritual and material strength, of spiritual power, peace, understanding, health, prosperity, and harmony to pour over my brothers and sisters. Lesson 12. The Great Laws of the Universe. The epithet saint. Origin and objective. Law of hierarchy. The mind of an individual is a manifestation of their spirit, by means of which they can bring to earth knowledge that they already possess, having acquired it in the course of their spiritual life. Even though incarnating, the spirit loses the memory of the knowledge acquired in its previous experiences, spiritual and human, such knowledge always remains within the consciousness of the spirit and gravitates in the formation of the mentality of an individual. In accordance with the work that spirits must perform for their own evolution towards the creative divinity, they are gathered in groups that join their forces and work guided by more evolved beings. These beings not only impart knowledge to spirits through action, but also support them with their own forces for the achievement of the work to be performed. They are responsible for this work before other elevated beings, thus reaching in progressive succession towards the divinity. This constitutes the law of hierarchy, which allows spirits to perform their work within the perfect order and to obtain, also in perfect relationship, the progress that each one deserves according to the effort made for good. In order to facilitate the work and to obtain greater benefit from the effort, the groups are almost always formed with spirits which have been initiated within the same branch of knowledge. This allows them to reach the perfection of this branch more rapidly. Once obtained, they begin to work within a new branch in which, by means of the forces and evolution they have already acquired, they can advance more rapidly, thus continuing in this way until it encompasses all the knowledge that a spirit can acquire within a given orbit. That is why we sometimes find people who are extraordinarily gifted in certain sciences or arts, as well as, although in smaller numbers, some who denote that same extraordinary ability for several sciences, or those who demonstrate to possess knowledge they positively know not to have been acquired in their present incarnation. These cases constitute help which has been provided to guide you towards the path of knowledge essential for evolution. Thus, those beings whom you qualified as geniuses, and others who by chance discover some of the laws that govern all creation, are firmly pointing out to humankind paths that progressively lead it towards the goal of its evolution. The contact of humankind with the great forces will succeed in bringing knowledge to the world, by means of incarnated higher beings, and also by the contact between humankind and the forces that must guide it. And thus, with only faith in its destiny as spiritual beings and the practice of love, humankind will be able to obtain the knowledge that will allow it to reach control of its own self and apply that enormous force in the achievement of its spiritual ideal of constant elevation. In this manner, humankind will detach itself from everything that, in an incarnated state, constitutes the ballast that evil managed to embed in them by deceptive pressure in its incipient consciousness. The control of spirit over matter will purify your present incarnate needs in such a way that human life will be completely transformed. And the soul, the sensory intermediate between spirit and matter, without the slavery or demand of matter, will provide humankind with the joy of true spiritual pleasures. Pleasures which you will enjoy more intensely as you come closer, through spiritual elevation, to the pure fountains of emanation. Just as dissonant chords put the instrument out of tune and prevent it from playing pure melodies, so do vulgar material pleasures unbalance the vibrations of the soul, weakening and annulling its sensory capacity for the exalted spiritual pleasures. The human being must spiritualize. This is your most pressing need. On the subtle planes, one has the exact sensation of oneness, of unification. As one descends to the lower planes, this unification opens up and divides into beings, which, upon reaching physical planes such as yours, appear different and absolutely separate from each other. That is why in the dense planes, in your physical world, humankind tends towards separation, isolation, and egocentrism. As they elevate themselves, beings feel the need for union, for communion, until they reach, in the higher planes, absolute unification. On your planet, which must now begin to spiritualize, the groups that make up humanity are antagonistic groups. The tendencies are hostile towards each other. The religions are contrary to each other, and the ideals conflict with each other. This will give you an idea of how little spiritual progress exists in your world. On the higher planes, beings are not considered separate entities from the group to which they belong. The work and tasks are always as a whole, and achievements are impersonal. In their eagerness to personalize, humankind invokes a particular being, for example, St. John. The pleas of humankind, when well-intentioned, when imbued with love, may reach the plane where the spirit of St. John dwells. But it will not be the spirit of St. John which will respond. Rather, when the call is received on that plane, the forces of that plane are the ones who respond. You assume that the deeds, which you sometimes call miracles, have been performed by St. John, but in reality, you can never know who the beings are which have performed them. In the higher planes, the work is absolutely impersonal. Only for you, names exist. Christ is the spirit of the highest hierarchy for your planet. He oversees its evolution and the spiritual evolution of humankind. His highest plane is the plane from which the most portentous deeds will come to you. It does not mean that Christ himself performs the deeds. It means that the marvelous power of his mind conceives, and that mental conception is projected into your world, acting in all the necessary planes, within all of which the deeds that the mind of the Christ has conceived are being shaped. The work which is carried out in the ether is absolutely impersonal and is performed in accordance with the law of hierarchy. The higher mind conceives, and other beings, their minds, their powers, are performing the deeds until that achievement comes to you. When these achievements come from the highest planes, an invocation to attract them is necessary in order for them to make contact with a physical world. In other words, in your world, there must exist a force of faithful invocation of such intensity that will allow the spiritual achievement to make contact with the physical. According to the spiritual laws, in order for these achievements to penetrate into worlds of dense planes, it is necessary to have the invocative request produced in that world. That is why faith is necessary. That is why invocation is necessary. That is why prayer is necessary. For prayer made in faith is a form of invocation. That is why the work of Christ, prepared by the mind and love of Christ, in order to make contact with humankind in your physical world, has needed to prepare instruments and channels through which the achievements and forces can penetrate the earth. Those instruments, those channels, are you. You are the instruments and channels as spirit. Your matter has been prepared for your spirit, but the real preparation has had to take place in your spirit. Your spiritual vibrations must harmonize with the vibrations of the higher beings who use them. And your matter has been prepared from the moment of conception to receive your spirit. Then the matter was harmonized with the spirit and later prepared in such a way that the forces which your spirit, as an instrument, must transmit through the matter do not find in it obstacles that block those vibrations. This is the preparation that all of you are receiving from the spiritual hierarchy, and that you have begun to receive since before you were born. The members of the work of Christ are not and cannot be improvised. All the missionaries have been prepared in advance as necessary and with the purpose of carrying out the work that corresponds to each one of you within the mission of Jesus.